This is the Reflector Reflections podcast. My name is Annie. Join me as we journey around the world, talking with fellow reflectors, and in this case, reflector mums, as they experiment and navigate their unique design. Today's beautiful conversation is with Claire from It's a Kid's Life. Claire is our first non-reflector friend. She's an amazing 1-3 generator who, alongside with her fellow generator husband, are raising a 1-3 reflector daughter and a 5-2 projector daughter. Claire specialises in being a human design coach for mum and offers a more connected and conscientious parenting approach using human design. Welcome, Claire.
Thank you, Annie. It's so nice to be in this space. I feel very privileged.
Thank you so very much. I've been really looking forward to this chat with you just because, you know, people have reached out and they're like, well, I'm a sacral or I'm this and I'm that. How can we raise our rare reflector children? And when I saw what you were doing in the space of just offering guidance for parents and new mums and families, I was just drawn, and I've just, as I said, I've been really looking forward to talking with you and being a rare reflector mother.
There's not many of us. Yeah.
Yeah, I think maybe they'll all come out as human design is starting to become a little bit more mainstream. Maybe there will be a few more.
I hope so. Yeah, I hope so. And obviously with one reflector and one projector, they're both the rarest types. So yeah, I literally went down that rabbit hole when I found their designs. And I'm still very deep in that rabbit hole, to be honest. I think it's a daily lesson for me and my husband in how to navigate this. So
yeah,
podcasts and resources like yourself are amazing. I've found that whenever I've put things out, especially about my reflector, I get such amazing comments in the DMs and on Instagram, really beautiful, heartfelt, usually thank yous, like thank you for raising your daughter like this. It's amazing. It's just incredible to get that kind of feedback just by parenting her. So yeah, you're a very special bunch.
Yeah, and I know I can really honour that as well, because obviously I've got two very older children. I've got a 26 and a 23-year-old, and I had no idea, but it's only been in the last few years that I've been introduced to human design, and I've spoken about it, but I found that the way I parent, the way I'm in a relationship, the way that I do things is so much better by just understanding them understanding me.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yes, absolutely.
So let's talk about you. Like, how did you get into human design? Can you take us back? What happened?
Yeah, I mean, I'm, your typical personal development, like nuts, just love learning. And human design has been something that just kept coming up. And it was at a time, a couple of years ago, and it was just like, oh, not one more thing to learn, one more, but everyone's talking about it. So I kind of just, on the periphery, I didn't look into it too much until it literally kept hitting me in the face. My youngest goes to a family daycare, and she's a Reiki practitioner as well. And she mentioned it. So I thought, right, okay, I will look into this. And it was a, pandemic, rough time in many of our lives. And when I eventually got my head into it, and I looked at my own chart as a sacral generator, it was like, yeah, okay, that makes sense. What was more worrying though was how I wasn't living in alignment with that, and how I could actually look back on my life experiences and think, oh, I didn't really listen to my sacral then. Look how that turned out. And so that was, that was great. That was really good for me.
Yeah.
And then when I looked at my husband's, that made sense too. Another sacral generator. We actually met at work. We were both in very crazy operations environment, medical operations, life or death, crazy shift work. Made sense that that's how we met, and that's what we've got in common. And then I looked at the girls, and that's when it was just like, oh, okay, this is now, you've got my attention. My eldest, who's now 6, she's the projector. And even before I got into human design, we lovingly called her the restaurant critic, because, and I know most kids can do this, but, she will critique how the toast is presented to her in the morning. And, she's very much always offering input and insights, probably beyond her years, if I'm honest. And we always just thought, oh yeah, that's just her, And then when I found out about the human design, and actually in one of the books I read, it literally said restaurant critic is a great term for projectors. I was like, yep, that's sure true. And then I looked at my youngest, and it was just an immediate download. I didn't realize at the time just how rare reflectors are. But it did answer a lot of questions. So she was I think it was just around her second birthday that I did her charts. So it immediately answered a lot of questions. And it also, looking back even on her short life at that time, even from birth, there were things that she was sensitive to. Her gut was quite sensitive. Her eyes are quite sensitive sometimes. And I've just finished the Reflector book by Amber Clements, who you obviously had on the podcast. Yeah. And that's been amazing for me as a mom to think, wow, I really have a responsibility to set her up in a very healthy way in all ways. Yeah. So yeah, it was just something that I then could no longer ignore. And I've always been, since becoming a parent, I've been in the parenting sort of blogging space, but just as a hobby, never really knowing where to go with that. And then finding human design and finding it so impactful pretty much immediately in parenting, I instantly just, this was it. This was, I'm undefined in so many of my areas, but this was my purpose. I just knew it was like, this is what I'm meant to do. And the more I talked about it to other parents, it's just evolved from there.
Yeah, I love that.
So yeah.
I really love the work that you're doing as somebody who works, with pregnant and postpartum mums in that sphere. It's so helpful for a family, especially a mum, especially a new mum, to not feel so batshit crazy, because if you can understand yourself a little bit more and you can understand a child that's just been presented to you, it makes it a little, you feel a little less crazy. Do you find that if you're working with people, they especially the mums, they can go, oh, I don't feel that it's all me. Like I can now understand this unique design and
yes.
I have a manifesting generator son who's a 4/6, and the first 12 months it was like I could not get him off me because he'd just cry all the time. But I realized now that I'm looking back in reading his chart, he really needed to be away from me because it was just an amplification.
Yes.
I now know that, and I probably could have prevented myself from being in the fetal position for the first 12 months, but I also loved it,
We live and learn.
Yeah, I do really honor the work that you're doing. So thank you for doing that. So let's talk about that. So you went down this journey, you found this out about yourselves, you've gone into this hobby space, you then decided to start providing readings and get trained in the area of human design.
Yeah. And it was a really inconvenient time, let's say. We obviously, from the accent you can tell we're British, but we live over here. We moved just before the pandemic, so we've got no family support around us. We both work and have other things going on and parenting, so it was really one more thing to learn. But it just was something that I could just not put down. It was, and this is where this, the following the sacral has just proven time and time again, this is what I'm meant to be doing. The responses that I'm able to then respond to is just, I've got, big dreams of where this can go. But I just following that passion and purpose, which I think previously, society obviously is like, no, you've got to find something that is logical or this or that. And actually, this made no sense other than it felt right. And it has just continuously led me down the right path. So the favorite way that I like to work with people is that age from around 2. So their children are around age 2. Because I've done readings for newborns, and I think it's almost a nice thing people like to hang on the wall, but it doesn't mean much. The newborns, yes, they all want to cry and they all want to have cuddles, and there's obviously their personalities are there, but certainly in my experience, it's when they hit that 2 mark or thereabouts, that's when the challenges come in, and not so much like children are just being two, they're just learning their emotions.
Yeah.
I find that's when the parents are triggered. And if they don't have a solid anchor in their own worth or their own strengths or their own potential pitfalls, that's when it can, you know, become challenging, unnecessarily so. And so that's, I really love to work with that 2 to 6 or 7 years of age, that really crucial few first years, because I find that that's where all of the magic can then happen. You know, it's not a perfect approach by any means, but it's definitely something that I feel has the most benefit. And from personal experience, for sure.
And that is that big area of development between those phases. It really is. Like if we go back to emotional trauma, if we go back to anything that's generally got caught in our system, that's generally where it always is.
It's from those, absolutely. And funnily enough, they've always been in a Montessori education or nursery or daycare. And my eldest just finished her first year of prep in Montessori last week. And her guide gave her a present, and with it a quote, Maria Montessori quote, which was literally that, you know, it's not so much the university studies, but it's the first 6 years of life that are the most important. And I cried. I was just like, oh, if there's anything to remind me of the importance of this, there it is right there. And, you know, with my blog and the hobby side of it, I've always intuitively followed a more gentle parenting approach, but never really had a framework necessarily, I've just appreciated it and it's worked for me and my family. Whereas, as I say, when kids get to that age 2 and upwards, I really felt, I need a little bit more to go on. And that is when human design found me. And that's when it was, you know, really, because there's no one size fits all with anything. You know, you know, the problems of our education system, for example, you know, that how many manifesting generators have been told to sit down for 6 hours a day and then being, you know, told that they've got a behavioral issue. And it just breaks my heart to think that you know, there's much more to the story than that. So
and I love that you say that, because most of them that I find, or that I'm speaking with parents about, it is the manifesting generator that generally gets called out for the bad behavior, because they need to move.
they need to move.
And when they do sit still for a long time, that's when they become quite impulsive afterwards, don't they? Because it's like they've built this energy, they've been good for so long, and then they just want to go bang. You know that about them, so you go, I can't blame you for that. So I love that you said that, because it's a little bit of a bugbear of mine too. It's like maybe if the schooling
not label them, right?
the schooling system sort of incorporated a little bit more of your unique design, how much better our curriculum could be, or our environment. But anyway,
well, you've hit on my dream there. That's my big, huge goal for the future, that, you know, education is taken a little bit more by design. That would, I think that would be amazing.
Would that be? You go, girl. You go.
Thank you.
I can imagine when you were doing this, or sort of, I can try to imagine when you were doing this and you found out we're both generators and we're raising 2 non-sacrals, and we want to journey with our children. We want to help them, help us, help them. How did you start that? Like, obviously, being generators, it's not something that you would naturally do, is allow someone to have all this time. Or can you talk to me about that?
And honestly, it's a daily, I don't want to say challenge, but it's a daily learning, let's say. To begin with, as I said, when human design found me, it was a pretty challenging time personally for me. You know, there was a lot of burnout, trying to parent, and the pandemic, and you know, and all of that stuff. And what it gave to me was permission to actually go, hang on, what's my body actually telling me? This doesn't feel right, and I've been ignoring that for so long. So regardless of what the designs of the kids were, it was almost, I need to start with me. I'm the anchor of their lives right now, so I need to be looking after me. And you know, and the same for my husband. I mean, he's got his throat and ajna defined as well. So he keeps it real. He's always bringing it back to, well, what does this mean? Where's the logic in this? And I'm like, no, bring it back to your body. Like, let's feel what feels right. And I think as parents, we've done that, but in general life, we both have probably not done that very well. And so especially with my youngest, so with the reflector, Imogen, she physically anchors me. And what I mean by that is she just demands my time and my presence. Like she will, now she's, older and she's pretty strong, she'll literally pull my hand and sit me on the sofa and plonk a book in my lap. And, and for me as a generator, I'm like, I've got to get this and I've got to do this and dinner and tidying and this and this and this. And she's really just taught me to get back into the present. And so that for me is just a huge gift. It's not easy. It's definitely not an easy thing for me to do, but I'm appreciating that more and more. And it's also, so both me and my husband and our eldest, we also have our spleen and our root defined. So bless her, the youngest with no definition has this around her. And honestly, I guess I don't know what's coming, but I'm aware of our need to just be mindful of that. So time and getting out the door in the morning is, as I'm sure for most parents, it can be quite a source of stress and frustration and, all the things that we don't want to be as parents. And so we've had to put in things like, let's add a buffer of 15 minutes. Let's really honor that buffer. Let's get everything set up the day before. Let's, pick our shoes, because she can't pick from 3 pairs of shoes in the morning. It's too much decision making, and we're still late, we're still, but it's almost like, well, you know what, that's our acceptance of that. So there's an element of, they're just 3 and 6 years old, so there's an element of just kids messing around, but also, we have to be really mindful of not just pushing our energy onto them. And honestly, we fail at it every day, but we learn from it every day as well.
I don't think I don't think there's any word fail there. I think it's we are experimenting every day. It's a nice
I prefer that.
I love that you have said that about you needed to take the time to honor yourself first and really drop into that sacral and do that session of Do you do that with your husband? Do you sit in sacral sessions and just have, right, I need to do this? Yes, no answers. Do you do that at all?
I don't, but I should. I mean, we barely get any time to talk about anything. Maybe we should do it on WhatsApp. But no, I agree. That is a really, I think just because of, being busy, we are very much like quick, let's make a quick decision, and 2 sacral generators, right, done, let's go. We can lean into that. But I think, I personally have started to really honor it a little bit more with coming home from school and, getting snacks ready, and then they want to, start dinner and all of that. I've set the pace now that I come in, I make myself a cup of tea, they get their snacks, and I sit with a book for 15 minutes and I just read what I want to read. And whether they're climbing over me or they're, demanding whatever, I'm still going to have that 15 minutes. And I think they might be annoyed with it right now, but I really hope that in the future they can look back and say, oh, we saw mum taking time for herself and we saw her honor that. I hope they see it, and for the benefit for me is now, hopefully the benefit for them is in the future. But I think there's always scope for more.
And it's really important that we value who we are, because as you say, you are the captains of the ship. You need to make sure that you are filled and nourished and whole. And it's even though we're trying to give the best to our children, they also need to give the best back to us. And I think by teaching them what you're teaching them, or we're trying to teach them, it's really important so that they respect other people and other people's energy types too. Because even though you're raising a reflector and she needs to have time, and you're raising a projector and they like to give their opinions all the time on everything. So I call my projector, my 6-year-old projector, I call her the Oracle. And
knows better on everything.
I always just say, I've just got to consult the Oracle, because a lot of times I really do rely on her. She's only 6, and I'll just say, what do you think about this? Yes. And she will give me such wisdom, and I'm like, thank you.
Absolutely. Yes.
And it's like I'm always inviting her in. And since I've started doing that with her, she is just sometimes a little bit more over the top, and it's got to be like you do, got to try and teach you now how to just wait a little bit.
Yes.
But it's like it pumps her up. She feels valued and important.
Absolutely.
Like, what do you think? And I trust her. I just trust her, because she's a splenic projector. And so as soon as she says something, I just go, right, that's how it's going to go.
That must be.
And I love it. I love having that trust in the energy type that she is to me.
Yes.
Because a lot of the time I don't know. I'm just guided by everybody else, because I can't think in the moment.
Yes.
And I've got a pure generator husband, so I've learned to rely on him too.
Yes, in a different way.
Because I trust him, because we've, I've and I'll say, what do you think about this? And he'll sometimes say to me, do you actually want to give you an answer, or do you just want to talk it out? Because he'll allow me to voice that. And then I say, no, I actually want your opinion. And then he'll go, bang, right. And I go, okay, that's what we're doing. And that's our family working together, because
that's amazing.
It is. It's like I rely on them so much. And the manifesting generator, well, he's just like a little energetic bunny.
Does his own thing.
He does his own thing. He's an ego manifesting generator too. So like we had some fun times.
Full on. I imagine. That's interesting you say about how you're dealing with your projector, because from my perspective, I've got to come at it from a slightly different way, because I don't want to project what I think, because I probably do have some answers and ideas, but I want to authentically ask her. I don't want to just pay lip service to it. I do actually ask her questions on things I do want her input to. And then I have to kind of navigate back to me going, oh man, your idea was way better than mine. Okay, we better go with that. But also explaining to her why sometimes, even if it is a great idea, we can't do that right now, or we're not doing it today, or somebody else might not agree, and just trying to prepare her, because obviously not everybody will agree with her in the future, and not everybody will want those insights. And so, she will go straight in with well, this is what we're doing, and this is how we're doing this. And it's like, well, hang on, what does your sister want to do? What do your friends want to do? Because if you keep doing that, then people won't actually listen to you. And trying to put that in a 6-year-old's language is quite hard.
But I just by having those conversations, we're encouraging them to think a little bit outside of the box, and I think you're laying the beautiful foundation, and that's where it starts. Even though they'll trip and fumble and fall, that's what do we got? We're 5'2". So it's quite a dynamic, isn't it? Because you said that your husband, he's at 2'4".
Yes. So and between the three of us, so between like me, my husband, and Abby, our eldest, apart from the head center, all other centers are defined between us. So there's our little reflector in the middle, taking it all in and on, and just trying to be aware of it. I mean, that's job number one, right? Just to be aware of it, and just constantly trying to do the best by her in the best that we know how to do.
Just by being aware of it, you're doing the best you can, aren't you? Just by trying.
Hope so.
Oh, of course
hope so. The fact that, so I'm an only child, so the sibling thing it's a whole new ball game for me, and trying to navigate that is, interesting in its own way. But so our projector is an emotional projector, and honestly, when those two sisters go at each other, we just need to step back, because there's no way that we can add anything to the situation. No. You've got the emotional side from Abby, and then Imogen reflects that and amplifies it, and then Abby sort of probably realizes it's not whatever, I don't really care, Imogen probably gets what she wants like 99% of the time, and then walks away and leaves a trail of destruction around her, but completely detaches from it.
Yeah,
2 minutes later, it's like she's forgotten what it was, and everyone else is like, well, hang on, what are we doing about this? Oh no, that's forgotten now.
Yeah.
So,
she stepped out of your energy. That is exactly how it feels. It's just like, oh, I'm removed from it now. It's gone.
Yeah, I've done what I need. Yeah. Really winding big sister up. And again, I know that this happens in families, siblings, and but just seeing it on that different level, it's given us a bit of a permission ticket as well to say, well, if you're dealing with it, you're dealing with it. As long as nobody's getting hurt, you're actually learning a lot of life lessons here. So, go for it.
Something that's really, I look back through my own life, and the more that I talk with fellow reflectors on and off air and in DMs, we are classified always, when someone does charts or when we look at resources on the internet, we're always the last one, and generally every other type gets their 30 or 40 minutes of glory, and we get about 10.
Yes.
And we're really plugged as this unicorn, and this, in a way, it's kind of, we're weak and we're like, we got to look after our poor reflectors. I honestly, and most of the community will beg to differ. I think we are one of the most resilient types. If anything, we're probably the most resilient type. So I think I'd like to really go on the air and say, you'll be fine. She will be fine, because
yes,
we are not little snowflakes. There is the reason that we're so open is because it can literally come in and out of us. There's no definition, and it's very hard to explain to somebody who can't feel that. Like my husband and I, we have chats all the time about it, and he goes, what does that feel like? And I just go, and he goes, how can you just detach like that? And I'm like, it's gone. Like I just literally step out of it, and it's just
what a great superpower.
It is. And I think it can be very, obviously the challenges with every type, isn't there? There's always challenges. And then we've got our profile, and we've got all sorts of other stuff going on. But yeah, if anything, your family dynamic, by the sounds of things, your poor little projector's gonna have a harder time.
Yeah.
She'll hold that. She'll be like, oh, and very, very emotional, whereas the reflector will be like emotional only because she thinks other people are being very emotional.
Yeah.
And if she steps out.
I completely agree, actually. And that I can see, the younger one, she winds, obviously that's siblings, but she winds her up so much. And you can see that it's like, oh, it's really affected her. But yeah, the reflex is just like, nah. And when we say, oh, that was really, that's not very kind to take your sister's toy and look, now it's broken or this or that, we try not to say why, because, they don't really know why. She literally shrugs and like, oh, because, and just walks away. And okay, how do we deal with that as parents to try and say this is not actually okay in general? But we also, hats off to her, because it's water off a duck's back most of the time. Quite envious of that. She's also, so obviously she's got no centers defined, but she's got a lot of activations all around her identity center,
right?
And I have none. So I really believe, okay, you've come here to teach me a lot. I know all kids do, but I really see, if you look at our charts as a family, we kind of complete so many of the channels and the energies and the centers. And Imogen and me especially, we both are 1-3. We both have a caves environment. And yet we are opposite in the identity.
Yes.
And I can fully see, you've got way more to teach me than I could ever teach you. So bring it on.
I've got a completely open G center as well. Where is she open in any other ways, in any other centers? Is she open at all completely in any other centers?
She doesn't have, she's got a very spread activation. So whereas for me, like I've got all my activations around my energy centers and not much elsewhere. Whereas whereas her gates are all over the place, but predominantly around the identity center.
Yeah, right.
And as I delve more into the gene keys, I'm really, I'm really extracting a lot of knowledge from that. And I'm trying not to, think too far, well, this is going to be you, and this is, it's just great knowledge to kind of just have on the periphery.
Yes, it is.
But yeah, it's just, there's just always so much more to learn, and having all of the centers pretty much defined in the house, I think it's a good balance. But it also obviously comes with its own challenges, and it'll be interesting to see as they get older how that does pan out. But yeah, they're very close as well, and that's the loving way that I see that in
so
their,
probably
in their
quite
sibling.
easy from an energy point of view, that aura point of view. The projector and the reflector can often sit in each other's space and not feel pressured.
Yes.
And it is a nice, I know when I sit with my projector daughter, I'm quite attuned to it now, but it just feels less pressure. It's not to say that if I'm around other projectors, that's not the case, but just certain, obviously.
Yes.
But yeah, so they probably feel quite, they can discharge together, I suppose.
Yes.
Away from mum and dad, you'll probably find that you'll be able to go and do your thing together, and they'll just go off and do theirs, and there's their discharging, and they're good. The good thing is bedtime for you might be easier because they generally got to go to bed a little tireder, or is it?
You see this. So I don't know if they've hit that age yet where this kicks in, or whether it's just my kids, but that was something when I read about getting to bed before they're tired, and they probably need more naps or more sleep. No, that was not the case with either of mine. Maybe that's just luck of the draw. But that in itself has been a lesson. I mean, that in parenting in general, this is where for me all the intuition kicked in, and I didn't know anything about human design at the time. It was just intuition of everybody, including friends and mainstream parenting, and everyone saying cry it out and leave them to do this, and none of that felt right, and I could never ever put a reason to it. It was just, no, that's not happening. You do you. It's not that's not what I want to do. And when I then in typical following the joy kind of generator approach, I just kept researching and looking into it, and it just spoke more and more to me, the whole gentle parenting, respectful parenting. It just made sense. So this now is just an extra layer of that. It just puts a more of a framework to it, and more of a really individual plan framework to it. But yeah, the sleep thing not happened. Not yet. not so much, not yet.
You're very busy. You could imagine that, which you possibly, if you have, or if your parents are still alive, maybe it might have been something that you were like too. So you're very, that mind must be, as a 1-3, there's things to think about. There's things to think about.
Yes. Well, absolutely. And that 1-3, that's where I can help Imogen, because I do definitely, I mean, even with the whole human design thing, I haven't gone out and just jumped into, this is what I do now and this is what I'm offering. I need to know all the things. And I'm pursuing my coaching certification because I respect this space so much that I don't, I'm holding space for parents that I don't, they might have so many other things going on in their lives that human design may have triggered for them, or I really want to hold that space for them. Typical 1-3, right? It's just not wanting to just jump in, and once I do know enough, I will jump in, but there's got to be that research and and that done first. But the transition between both of them is evolving every day. And the real key for me with the reflector was when they were in daycare together for a year, and then my eldest started prep. Now that was a huge transition for my youngest, because she, her whole world just changed overnight. Big sister was not around during the day anymore. She'd lost her playmates and everything was changing. And it was at that time that some of the, overwhelming emotions were coming out. and she didn't know how to handle it. And it was literally at that time that we, you know, learning more about human design. And it was amazing because it was like, right, okay, there's actually nothing wrong going on here. You're just feeling all the feels. We're here for you. You know, you're safe, you're loved. This is what's happening. How can we make this transition good for you? And it, you know, and it was good, and it was, we got there, and she's happy. But it was definitely something that we're like, okay, how amazing that we know this. We have these insights, because otherwise we could have just, you know, labeled her difficult or whatever, and it's just not fair.
And as reflectors, I suppose we need to experience it all. So I guess even the poking people to get a reaction, how's that reaction going to feel? You know, you sort of look back on your own childhood and you think, you know, as kids we do that anyway because we need to experience life. But you could imagine from a reflector point of view, we're very curious, and I guess using the terminology, we're sampling everything. So if something's not coming through that we want, we might, as a young kid, we might poke the bear to go, oh, that's what that is. And I guess that's probably why we can just like create destruction and then just walk out of there. It's like, oh, okay, so that's how that feels. Got that noted.
Have
you noticed at certain times, obviously you were just saying then that when, you know, started prep and the challenges, you really noticed her reacting. Is there other times where you've just gone, oh, you are being triggered, you are being, you know, you're feeling all of the emotions of the family? Does that happen a lot?
I wouldn't, well, yes and no. I think yes, within the family, but I think we're more aware of that now. What we do give a little extra, I would say, like preparation for is new places or places with lots of groups of people. So with Abby, with our projector, she literally thrives on other people. She will go to a playground, she'll seek out people straight away. You're my friend, let's play, let's do this. Whereas Imogen will instantly just come straight to one of us. Like she, you know, she just needs that safe base before she will go off and follow Big Sister. And we've noticed that in new situations, new people, new environments, it does take time, and it does take a bit of preparation to explain what we're doing and where we're going and who will be there. But she'll also have very quick, she'll assess things very quickly and just come and say, I want to go home now. I'm done. I want to go home. And obviously it's not always possible. So we do, you know, have to sort of say, well, you know, we'll go home soon, but, you know, we're at a friend's party or an event or something. Why don't you and me sit together and we'll sit quietly and we'll have a snack together, and then she's fine. And we noticed this even last week at her big sister's prep transition day. It was a whole room full of prep kids and their parents and their siblings. She knew some of them, but there was, you know, a lot of new faces. And I tried to experience it from her, trying to think about how she was experiencing it. And I've heard from other reflectors, it's like you go into a room and you can literally sense everything that's going on. I mean, how overwhelming. Like, I can't even imagine that. So she just clung to me. She just literally, like a limpet, clung to me. So I took her outside, we sat down, had a drink. And once she'd had like 10-15 minutes, she was off. And she was playing with the people and jumping on the play stuff. And I just thought, okay, that 15 minutes was all she needed to feel safe and okay. And now she's off causing destruction. Like, she literally goes from, you know, the one end straight in the middle of all the action. And then she's fine. And I just think that's okay. Like, now that I know that, I can keep doing that for her. And maybe she'll always need that to a certain extent. I don't know.
No, I think so. I think we need it. But as adults, we had no idea. But I think the more we look back on our lives, reflectors, the more we look back on our lives, we always know that we just needed to disengage for a while. And literally, it's like we just need to shake off the energies, just discharge, and good to go again.
Yes.
I love that you're honouring that. I really do.
Trying.
I'm like, I'm so proud of you.
Oh, thank you.
I know that sounds horrible to say that, but I just kind of think, oh, I'm so proud of you, because
that means a lot. Thank you.
It's just, that's, yeah. I don't just have this real sense you won't break her or hurt her or harm her in any way, because you're doing everything right. You know, you're honoring her, and you're allowing her to be her and navigate this herself. And who knows where she'll go with it, because we are all different. But you're teaching her that. And I think that when you listen or you speak to a lot of reflectors, we can get to the burnout phase, or we can get to this phase where, because we never honored that ourselves. And so we just kept going and going and going and going and going and going. And then we just go, you know, immunocompromised, or sickness or something happens to us where we just fall to bits, and then we can't go anymore. But hopefully the new ones coming through, and with knowledge and awareness like yourself and what you're doing, and the more of us doing it, then we can just help each other and help our little people be a little bit more aware.
I hope so. We try not to schedule too much as well. I think that's a big thing for kids anyway. I love it when they say they're bored, because then they'll go and be creative. And I, you know, especially with the summer holidays here in Australia coming up, I'm trying not to plan too much. I'm trying to just be, let's be bored, let's figure something out. And you know, trying to overschedule just doesn't work. It just doesn't work for either projector or reflector. They'll keep going because that's what they think they have to, but it'll come out in behavior or tiredness or crankiness down the line.
That's it. And it's been such a big year for these preppies of ours, hasn't it? So it's nice for them to just lay around and play games and watch TV, definitely do whatever they need to do, read books.
Definitely. Now that they can read, it's amazing.
Oh, Claire, thank you so much for this chat. Look, let's talk about what you're doing. You did mention it before, what you're doing with your business, but how can people reach out and find you and share your work that you're doing?
So I do offer readings. I don't offer individual ones because I do want to focus on the family dynamics. So I offer parent-child readings, or even better, full family readings. And then I go a bit further in the sense that I offer what I call parenting with soul. And it's a group of 4 sessions where we keep digging. Because when I first got into human design myself, I had readings which were great, and then I was left with, okay, now what? How do I actually do this? And there was no one out there really to guide me through that. So it was, you know, something that I've learned myself. And you know, when I work with parents, they often, like I said earlier, they want the nice chart for their newborn baby. But actually what they don't realize is it's 80% about them. It's only 20% about the kids, really, because they're perfect already. They came here knowing exactly who they are. So it's more about working, you know, with the parents and just helping them to understand what conditioning they've gone through, and managing their energy and managing the kids' energies and all of that. And I do find that takes quite a few sessions to really help them embody that and integrate that into their family life. I'm actually running a masterclass. So we're into early December, on the 7th of December in Australia. And it's a free masterclass. I'm seeing on Instagram a lot of curiosity about, okay, what is this? How do you actually do this? And obviously, as you know, there's layer upon layer upon layer. So I'm really trying to not overwhelm, but I am inviting people to come and just be open. You know, I really feel like parenting is becoming much more like seeing a naturopath before you see a doctor, before you get sick. You know, I think there's nothing wrong. There's nothing necessarily that you have failed at. It's just, how can we all do better? How can we all learn from each other? So that's the reason I've set this offering up, to not leave people hanging after a reading, but to actually answer their questions in between, because it's when you go away and think, okay, great, how does that actually work? And to have that support there. So you can find me on Instagram, It's a Kid's Life, and on my website, kidslife.com. And that's Kids because it's my surname.
Yeah, I was just about to say, and I love that take on the name. Claire Kidd. It's Kid's Life, double D.
Well, we're big dog fans, and we treat our dog like the third child. It's a dog's life, but it's why not a kid's life as well? Why not all enjoy it more?
Oh, I love that. I love it. Thank you so very much, beautiful soul, for your time. I know you're a busy woman, so I won't keep you too much longer. And
thank you so much.
We hope to talk to you again soon. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.